Well, not taking too great of a journey around having my coffee. I can tell I'm like the weather's going to beset me in not too long. It looks like it's going to stay rather wet and cold. Oh, but the kids are out playing their soccer. Hell yeah, do that, kids. That's yeah, yeah. They're all having a blast. They're all having a blast. God, that mountain is beautiful. The butte just has this way that the dew and mist, the way that dew and mist and the fog will seem to be getting almost torn up and off the trees. It's as if they're holding on to the fog as the sky pulls it. The clouds reclaim their own from the tree's grasp, as if they've caught their gossamer shoal, or stole, the gossamer stole in the branches of the trees on the mountainside. Shawl, a gossamer shawl, shawl of mist. God's amazing. I always like that one line. That's just a tree. You make one. That was good. That was a good line from that movie. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to make a little video on, it was to expand on the right became strong through internet blood sports by debating ideas, and without free speech, really nobody understands that elements like the white nationalists, you would be dealing with them, liberals, like these people would be, you guys you wouldn't understand, because you're so detached from what our reality has become, where we are dealing with people that we don't know where their money comes from, or people go searching, like right wingers are really, a lot of the young guys who are internet savvy, they're really into doing their internet research on people and where their money's coming from. This is why we just think you young Turks, it's just all a laughable sham, because we keep finding out where your money's coming from, and who you're involved with. So it becomes very clear, like, oh, they've just put on another outfit, it's the same supervillain, different outfit. It's just a robot in disguise. So what now I've been thinking about, okay, the debates between white nationalists and especially the traditional religious people. The traditional religious people started to cause there to be this open sort of divide where, they would cite enough about Christian history that was absolutely accurate, that it was multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-continental, within only about 2 generations. Within about 3 to 10, there was already the conversions of Persians, Hindus, and I think by 600 years it had reached China, and there was conversions there too, without force. These were disparate bishoprics. Like a person would go there, preach, and try to just get followers. Like it was actually in Chinese Christianity, what's been discovered of their writings and such, they had a similarity in what was understood by Taoist monks and Buddhist monks. So it wasn't sort of exactly like wild and crazy, like that there would be people doing such a thing, trying to attract somebody to a religious doctrine. But it was interesting how it became fused with those two in a way that was sealed in amber by the Muslims cutting off the Silk Road to China. So, and devastating the Persian, colonizing and devastating the native Persian way. And so I love how I'm able. It wasn't the Christians who became a threat to Zoroastrianism. So these debates that started to happen caused a lot of the Christians to have to say, yeah, I'm white. Christianity is pretty much a European religion, but it also reached all these other places. The Orthodox would then get into it with those type of people. So the white nationalist is sitting there having nothing to say. They're out of they were out of the picture. They were out of the picture. Nobody took them seriously anymore, or less and less serious. They became their own bubble. I even called it as they would all be like different lodges that weren't necessarily in affinity with each other, actually. And their political viewpoints would end up permanently dividing them outside of, well, but we know they'll all hang us for this. So, so at least we don't deal with like the profane as it would be in a lodge kind of setting. So that was something that I started. I said this a long time ago because I knew enough about the right wing to be able to say, like, okay, no, the old right, like hard kind of neo, types and all that. I'm like, one, they had their own internal problems too. These people were backstabbing each other all the fucking time. Like way back. Like way back. That's why these organizations didn't go on. And like people want to think like, oh, they're so powerful and black people are afraid everywhere. These organizations weren't really that well organized. After pretty much what we see generally in society, by the time you get to the late 50s and then to the 70s, these organizations, like most things, start to fall away because they were from another era. They were from another time. And unless you like really capture something that people are like, yeah, they could build, it causes the person to create and to build. So that's very unique and very difficult. Where if it just causes people to be fearsome and intimidating people and stuff like that, oh, but we're doing it to preserve our race, and it's like, but, it just doesn't, there's just people that they're like, well, I want to actually physically become an engineer and build a bridge. I don't have time for this other kind of stuff. And it doesn't, so it lost its social power. It lost its cultural credentials. And within very little time, because the way the internet works, because the way internet blood sports was working, because YouTube just simply was letting people use the damn tools and give money to the winner. And by the end of this, anybody who has followed all of these people who are these scary white nationalists sees that, like, for the most part, most of them didn't do too well in the long run. People on the right have careers that are definitely considered right of center, but they might not even consider themselves right-wing or rightist or anything like that. It's just they just consider themselves a very normal person. So they would be really the almost classical liberal or something close to that. Even people like that, they make a career now on every once in a while going over the failure of the white nationalists and the far right. personalities that didn't make it. That they thought they shot for the stars or something, and they ran headlong into the moon, bounced off it, and went in and got yeeted into the sun. And so when there's claims in the press, claims on kind of normie vision, that there's these kind of legions of people like this looking to do something terrible, you're being sold wolf tickets. You're being sold nothing but handfuls of wolf tickets by most of the press when it comes to this idea of what the right is. The thing, and now, really, this is where liberals have gone horribly wrong. Because you've equated these two groups that do not agree with each other and can't, what ends up happening with it in the long run? So it turns out the people who are into kind of neo-paganism on the right tend to be the white nationalists. Just tend to be. Or more white identitarian. The identitarians are also a different lot than the nationalists. Where to a great extent the nationalist is a kind of a cult of personality where you'll have a leader and blah blah blah. The identitarians just like sharing ideas, and what it is, it's white guys talking about stuff that they think is neat because it's white. and they think it's neat, and they want to talk to other people about it, and these are guys they get along with. And some people, well, it's kind of weird that this is just a panel of only white guys. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, talking about, the Raphaelite brotherhood of painters in the Netherlands, might be a subject that's confined to certain kinds of people. The difference between the various European rapiers guards, the types of epaulettes and shoulder baffles that you would find on European armor. This might have sort of a niche group of people, just like when you are looking up anything having to do with Kemet or Kemetic, and then you put in anything afterward, philosophy, theology, you will usually find panels of black men. And not even Egyptians. Black men. Black Americans, quite specifically. So the right, and that was the other thing. The far right that has some kind of racial identitarian quality to it, one of the big things about this is they were dealing a lot with, well, all we're doing is doing what the Soul Brothers are up to. Because anyone who's even remotely aware of Black American Twitter has to be honest about, like, the intense fixation on race Black American YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook have. And to the point that, almost anytime the wind blows hard, if black people are on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter talking about, I was walking down the street and the wind blew on me, it'd be racist. There's even a meme of was an anime character looking at a butterfly, and it says black people, and then looking at the butterfly, it says, is this about me? And and that's that makes a lot of sense. That's very so. It's very apropos. That's why that meme is good. That's why it's effective, because it's very appropriate. So when people are writing all these articles about how terrible the far right is on the internet, the other thing then they gin up is that it translates into something in the real world, which, again, I saw the real thing when people really blew things up in the name of white supremacy. I saw these days. I'm not that old. That's not happening anymore. These pit fuckers are weirdos making things up because they're wimps. They're wimpity doodahs. They're wimpity soyos. And I really mean, like, just so it is made very clear, so that, because I'm souring a little after hearing so much about a certain right-wing individual and their quote-unquote movement. Motherfucker, lift some weights. It'll help. It'll help sort things out. You'll feel better. You'll be solid. It grounds you into a different state of mind, and also it will make you think more clearly. Testosterone is always a performance-enhancing drug in every field and range of human performance at all times. And most importantly, if it's naturally occurring, which you lift more weight, you get more tea, your brain works better. Your brain works better, your nervous system works better. It is the way it is. People who don't know that don't know. Now, if somebody's going to report this back to this individual, that's fine. That's it. That's why way back in the day, Catholics used to be some boxing, athletic, hard cats, dude. They were different. You guys don't remember this. I remember when I was hearing my friends go, dude, those guys got man strength. Teenage boys who mouthed off to the wrong people learned about man strength, and yeah, that was they were notorious. They kept to themselves, but if you caught their if you sowed a storm with those boys in San Francisco, you could reap a whirlwind. And it was an ass whooping. It was a good old-fashioned ass whooping. It was a good old-fashioned fight. And yeah, so but they weren't cool. They themselves like flipping shit, you know. And so but that's the way that is. That's the way guys are. So the right, these tales. The tales of terror of the right. What the right wing is going to do. No, these are commies. These people who are saying this shit are commies. If you agree with them, you're probably kind of a commie. You probably are one of the dunces who thinks that there's some way you could get free things. You think that there could be life on easy mode. You think that some place, like, you just don't like the way the cards have landed in any way, shape, or form. You don't want to play, and you can't get out of the deal, because that's the way life is. You know, die crying, because you will, most likely. These people are making a lot of this stuff up. Now, what I can say from being in those extremes of society and knowing about them, no, the Antifa people are a violent gang. They are organized crime. That no one's being honest about this because everyone's a wimp. Everyone's being a sucker, a mark, a lame, or a wimp. They're just choosing which they want to be. And going, I'm not going to take responsibility for this. No, these people they're just very concerned about the environment, and that's why they have to beat people with pipes. And it's just, no wimp. This is a person who wants to be shot in the stomach as they're about to beat somebody with a pipe. That's what they want. They want somebody to eliminate them. That's really what they want. They want their mutational load taken care of. They're mutants. They're violent. Society, just living in a civilized society is difficult for them. They're maladaptive. They're maladaptive to it. So, and it's just, they're going to die crying. And so, they just want you to be the person who will send them to hell. And that's, I don't know if that's an honor or not, but, it is what it is. But that's really what they want. They want to be hung in the streets by their neighbors. That's what they really want, because that's the way they think. They would hang their neighbors because their neighbors eat lamb. And people might think, why does that sound familiar? Because that comes from like way back in the colonial areas of North New England America, is that you would hear like the neighboring village was dancing, so the good Christian people of this village went and killed them. And only in that part of the country was this understood. That's why Ontario was started. Because after the war, a bunch of people were like, no, these religious zealots over there will kill us if we step out of line in any way, and we'll never know when, so we gotta go. Now, the fascinating part is these people built schools and made female literacy compulsory. But remember, compulsory. They'll kill you if you don't teach your daughter to read. So it's, so it has its ups and downs. It has, everything has the way that comes into balance, I suppose. But a lot of this stuff with, there's these legions of these trolls that are going to get people, and yada, 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 and that they're online, and then it goes from what's online to offline, and this and that. No, that's an entirely different aspect of the culture. That's people popping at each other online, goading each other in fights. And that's almost entirely confined to the 12 super violent zones of America known as Democratic-run cities. And these places that if you were to look at them by most measures, you would think they had a civil war going on in them because of the number of men dying and being shot within that age category. So a lot of this stuff, this is mythology to make people feel good. It's kind of sad in that regard too. That this is mythology, so that people can think like, I understand what's really going on. These right wingers, they're online, but one day they're going to take to the streets. And it's like, no, that's consistently, even in the era of the actual skinheads. One of the things that became an issue, if you knew anything about skinheads, is quite specifically how the labor movement politics of the latest 60s into the 70s, that's what started to do stuff. And then also anti-communism. That there were a lot of skinhead culture had a lot of sort of vehement anti-communism, but then there were people who were solidly, and it was based around really commerce and money and style. So you had to make money, and the idea that you would have a job, these were working class East Londoners mostly that this style started from. And so it's just a different, it was truly working class. And that's why something like Antifa from Germany got so involved. And that when you track the history of it, it really does look like this was some kind of almost one of the first successful programs at heavily influencing what was a youth movement. And it caused a great divide in that youth movement, and that's what you end up getting, all these quote-unquote Nazi skins, and then you get the quote-unquote traditional skinheads, which really kind of far outnumber the Nazis, but you would never know that, like, reggae was like, nobody would have ever heard of reggae if it hadn't been this curiosity of these people known as the skinheads in England, who kept buying the records so that the records ended up off of the island of Jamaica, because Americans weren't buying 45s of all these old reggae tunes that now are on digital, but they weren't on digital, they were on 45s. So the most brilliant work of a generation of black Jamaicans Yeah, and nobody would know this because everybody's faking it. They're fakers. They weren't there. They weren't working class. They weren't down with the boys. They didn't want it. Yeah, they couldn't dance. They didn't have style. And that's a big part of what the world of men showing off, the world of men trying to make their reputation is a lot different than it's a lot different than what people think online. It's just what people are told online. It's just that everything now is a simulacrum, as Alexander Dugin would say. Yeah, deracinated people. So that's yeah. There is no white supremacy movement, white nationalists that are going to. Oh God, oh stop! It's just so silly. It's just so silly. It's such crap. No Democrats, you fucked up because you started getting involved with communists and socialists and really people are going to start having to deal with these people. They esteem criminals because they're involved probably with organized crime, and there a lot of us on the right as time. I mean, when I was younger, this was kind of understood to some degree about the Democrats, with a little smile and nod, smile and wink and a nod. But now it looks. I mean, well, we're all paying for that. Now it's becoming Brazil, but the without the squadrons, squadra, some squad hay. Yeah, I forget. They would have some really weird name for squadres. Yeah. All right. Later.